Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we'll be interviewing
Sheriff Mike Murphy.
with the Livingston County Sheriff's Office, a Michigan renowned sheriff and sometimes in the headlines for very good things, all good things. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So how did you start your career in law enforcement?
You know, I got started in 1988 after graduating from the police academy, and my first paying job was that in Perry. I worked part-time there for just 3 months, actually, from June to August, and then I got a full-time gig in Weberville. Almost 2 years there, and then came over to the sheriff's office in 1990. So I've been here ever since. Started in the jail and worked my way up, and here we are.
That's awesome, that's awesome. So what are some unique challenges you face as a sheriff in 2024?
Oh boy, I'm not sure where to start on that one. Probably the most unique challenge we have, well, there's several. One of them is public disinformation. It seems like today, for example, I've spent a lot of my day telling people there's fake news out there, right? So there's a post going around that there's 350 FEMA trucks that have descended on Michigan, and there's 6 counties that are involved, and Livingston's one, and how come, Sheriff, you're not doing anything about it, and what's going on, and are we under attack? And dude, relax, no, fake news, fake news. And that just goes on many levels, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges that I think we face. Keeping up with technology. I mean, if you would have told me back when I started my career in 1988 that the technology in law enforcement, but also the technology that the bad guys are using, it's insane. So I never would have expected that. That's very difficult to keep up with. Those are probably the two biggest, and you know, just going back to the disinformation, just social media. For example, we had a very sensitive case here recently where our detective bureau was called in, and the detective that was called in, his phone rang, you know, talking to his wife, hey, I gotta go, I apologize, and she goes, yeah, I know, and she showed him the Facebook post from the scanner chat of the call he was going to. So my detective doesn't even know, or I should say social media and the world who's paying attention to that knows before my detective knows that he's going to be dispatched to a case. Wow. Which is just, yeah, it's insane. So those are probably some of the biggest hurdles.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't lie if I said that I don't frequent that page myself.
I don't frequent social media. You know, if you've seen any of my stuff, I'm a one-way push guy. You know, I feel very comfortable with the interactions that I have with people on a daily basis. I pride myself in the fact that I'm very accessible to the public and out in the public, pressing the flesh, if you will. So, you know, very approachable. Return phone calls, answer emails, all that stuff. So, you know, when I throw something out on social media, that's not the opportunity to, you know, ask questions and dialogue back and forth. But that's my extent of social media. And frankly, I've got a gal that does that. You know, I just I do my video posts and I ship it off to the county's wizard and say, make it happen.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So how would you react if I told you that I wrote myself in as sheriff of Livingston County?
You know, I would say I'm a little disappointed, and I'm going to tell you why I'm disappointed, Jaden. So I've prided myself over the years of being the top vote getter in Livingston County. I've talked to a lot of people actually who wrote in their names or wrote in Mickey Mouse or whatever because I'm running unopposed. So what difference does it make, right? But it does make a little bit of difference, and this is an ego blow to me, I'm not going to lie. The prosecutor, Carolyn Henry, also running unopposed, she got like 300 more votes than I did. So it just hurt my feelings that there were people like you that wrote themselves in or didn't vote, and she beat me in our little friendly competition of the most votes received in Livingston County for a countywide election. But no, just kidding. I'm good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
My wife actually got some write-in votes too.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh, even your wife?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
She didn't write herself in, but she received some write-in votes.
That is hilarious. She could have been the other sheriff.
Right, exactly. She'll argue that she's the oversheriff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, between us, the wife's
Happy wife, happy life, right?
Happy wife, happy life, and she owns the rights to the page.
Right. Exactly.
All right. What made you run as sheriff? What was the deciding factor to do that?
You know, so I had a teacher long time ago, because as we've already established, I'm a little bit of an old guy now, that said, you know, don't bring me a problem without a solution. And that's kind of always resonated with me. I'm one of those people that have a tendency to complain a little bit about something being messed up and how it should be changed, or fixed or tweaked or whatever. That, hey, these are some things that could be changed, or these are some things that we could do different, coupled with the fact, don't bring a problem that you don't have a solution to, has kind of led me to be has led me to want to go forward. So when I walked in the door in 1990, I started in the jail actually. So I was having a conversation with one of my co-workers, and she said something to the effect, well, you know, what are your plans? Or somehow we were talking about that, right? And I said, I'm going to run for sheriff someday. And she started laughing. She goes, you're not going to run for sheriff someday. I said, no, I'm going to run for sheriff someday. Now, a part of me was serious, but a part of me was joking too. You know, I wasn't, I mean, that was a long time ago, right? But as my career progressed, I started to see things that I felt could be changed. And it was like, well, only if I was a sergeant, I could tweak things a little bit, or I could have some influence. Or only if I was a lieutenant, you know, only if I was the undersheriff. And then it just became that, you know, when I hit lieutenant, it was like, you know what, no, I'm going to run for sheriff someday. And then I was the undersheriff for 12 years, and had my eye on the prize the whole time, just saying, you know what, so now when there's things that are messed up, or, you know, things I'm like, man, we need to tweak that a little bit. Well, hey, we can do that because I'm the boss. Or, you know, if something's messed up, it's like, how'd that get messed up? Well, because that was your idea, sir. Oh, crap, I missed the mark on that one. You know what I mean? So there needs to be a little bit of humility in the position as well. But really, that's me in a nutshell. It's just that drive to have a little bit of influence and you know, be that person when you see something that needs to that we can do better, to be in a position to make it happen.
I like that. That's something I'm gonna keep in my mental hip pocket.
Right on.
Right on. All right. So, what is your plan to deal with loud Honda Civic with cherry bombs, preferably near my neighborhood?
So we've just invested in some Honda Civic cherry bomb missile launchers, shoulder mounted. So
okay.
the deputies, you know, when they see that, they can just hang out the window, fire off real quick, boom, done, problem solved.
This is a problem solver right here.
Done.
That's awesome. All right. What is the craziest story you have during your career as law enforcement or even sheriff?
You know, the best advice I never took was actually from my cousin, who was an instructor in the police academy. He retired from the Lansing Police Department. And he's like, hey, listen, I'm just going to tell you, you will see and experience things in this profession that nobody will believe. That old saying that, you know, truth is stranger than fiction, it is so true in this profession. You know, I've seen a ton over the years. A couple that come to mind, you know, we had an armed robbery. This goes back a number of years. Had an armed robbery at the Brighton Mire, and Brighton City started the chase. They lost him for a half a second, found him again. Chase goes up Hacker Road. So if you're familiar, Hacker Road makes a pretty significant curve there along about Clark Lake, and they didn't make the curve, so they hit the guardrail off into the swamp / lake there, Clark Lake, and we get there, get the one guy out in custody, and the other guy's in the car, unresponsive, in about waist deep water. The car was like half submerged, you know. So we pull him out, very labored breathing, unconscious. You know, we're thinking he's probably going to die as a result of these injuries, et cetera, et cetera. We searched the one driver, and he had a couple $100 bills on him, which was part of what was stolen at the Mire in the armed robbery, right? So he's on his way to jail. I go to the hospital with the unconscious guy, figure out if he's going to die or not. And the medical staff's doing their workup, and they can't really figure out what's going on, So finally the doc, after about the third exam, he looks in the guy's mouth and he starts laughing. I'm like, what? You know, we listen, in this profession, we've got a sick sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
Doctors and nurses also have a little bit of a warped sense of humor, but I'm thinking, that's pretty warped, dude, to be laughing, but whatever. So he reaches in this guy's mouth with some forceps, and what's he pull out? He pulls out a $100 bill. So what the knucklehead did was he tried to eat the evidence, you know, and unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, gets in the crash while he's in the process of trying to swallow this $100 bill, gets knocked unconscious, can't breathe, you know, that's the rest of the story. So that's probably one that comes to mind that was rather noteful. You remember the show Unsolved Mysteries?
Yes, I do remember that.
So for the younger people out there was this show called Unsolved Mysteries, and that's what the name would imply. And they also dove into criminal complaints too, right, that were unsolved. So we solved a bank robbery, and it's a long story, but to make a real long story short, the guy had broken through the wall of the bank over the course of time, and actually got inside the bank and waited for the staff to come in, and as they did, he kidnapped them, right? And then he stole the money from the bank and exited, and that was it. So once we finally caught him and figured out what was going on and caught him, in his confession, that's where he learned or got the idea for the bank robbery. Was he'd watched Unsolved Mysteries, and that was an unsolved bank robbery, so he's like, wow, if they couldn't solve it, then I could probably get away with it too, right? So
That is crazy.
isn't that crazy?
That is actually crazy. Wow. All right. Which sheriff do you have a friendly competition with?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, not a particular competition, like it's like one thing, you know, whether it's basketball or football or anything that way. But I've got a very unique relationship with Sheriff Swanson up in Genesee, who is obviously my counterpart. He's a sheriff, but he's a little bit more on the left side than I am, so we have some pretty good conversations. That's probably it, really, as far as kind of sibling rivalry might not be the right term, but you know, kind of that back and forth, you know, ribbing at each other. And since we're both on opposite sides of the political aisle, but it's all in good fun. But no, we've, you know, in the sheriff world, the sheriffs, regardless of political persuasion, political affiliation, really have a really good relationship and support each other wholeheartedly, because we realize how A, important the job is, and B, how important it is that that you've got somebody to talk to that maybe or maybe not has, you know, cleared that path, or, you know, hurdled that hurdle, or is experiencing the same thing you are. You know what I mean? It's nice to have somebody in that profession, and frankly, unless you're a sheriff, you just don't understand that.
Makes sense. So you're probably aware that he has multiple videos with who is it? Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
Have you thought about getting a celebrity come over here? Except myself, obviously.
Yeah. So he invited me to one of the Jelly Roll performances. I think it was actually the first one, as a matter of fact. And I took my inmate services gal that does similar things. You know, she does our GED programs and educational programs and stuff in the jail. But anyways, it was a pretty cool event. But I'm not a celebrity guy, frankly. I mean, that was cool that he did that. That's Sheriff Swanson's personality. That's really not my personality. You know, if somebody reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like to do something," I'd have to think about it. I probably wouldn't say no. But you know, to go out and seek somebody or something,
yeah,
that's not me.
Awesome. All right. Sweet. You're gonna love this next one. You ready? All right, next one. What is your favorite flavor of donut?
You know, that's a tough one because here's the real deal. I love donuts. They just don't love me. Right? So I get heartburn. So I really, really, really stay away from them. But I do have to, on Punchki Day, I got to do a Punchki,
yeah,
right? You go to Cops and Donuts up in Clare, you got to you got to do it, right? And I like them all. I mean, whether it's just a simple glazed or whether it's powdered. You know, locally, I'll be very honest with you, I'll give a shout out to Mark Gilly Orchard. They make an awesome blueberry donut. Their cherry chip's not bad either, but their blueberry's probably pretty good. That would probably rival the bacon maple Long John at Cops and Donuts.
Ooh, really?
That'd be a toss-up.
It's competition there. I don't know. I think Livingston County can beat Clare in this one.
That's right.
All right, alrighty. If the clock was set back, would you do all of this all over again?
I would do it all over again. I would do obviously a few things different. Hindsight's always 20/20, but you know what? I've had a phenomenal career. I've had phenomenal support from this community. You know, one of the cool things about being sheriff is I get to represent this community on that sheriff level, if you will. And you know, when we experience, and when I say we, public safety experiences bad press on a national level or even a state level, the amount of support that we get from our community, you know, phone calls, emails, people coming up, dropping stuff off, saying, "Hey, you know, that's not us. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys." That just means so much to me. It's an affirmation that we have the support of the county and its residents, which we need, frankly. You know, it's a very symbiotic relationship, right? So yeah, I think everybody has to, whatever your profession is, and I'm going all over the board here, but you know, conversations with kids. I do a lot of stuff in the schools, and you know, I'm going to be a doctor because they make a lot of money. I'm going to be a veterinarian because they make a lot of money. I'm like, listen, you guys, you realize that you got to work for a long time. You got to work. So you might have a big paycheck, but if you hate going to work every day, at some point that ain't going to work. Yeah, right, exactly. It's not worth it, right? And I can honestly say, of course, I've had my bad days, but I can honestly say that my career here and in this profession has been great, and I've not loved every day, but far more than I've went home shaking my head, I'll tell you that. Yeah,
That's good.
It's been a great ride.
That's awesome. And you have our support for sure.
I appreciate that.
Also, again, people drop off things for you guys on the holidays. I see a lot. I always see it on the Facebook, or as my grandfather calls it, Spacebook. But, what does Livingston County Sheriff's Office like more, ribs or turkey?
Gotta go with ribs, dude.
Ribs.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love ribs.
Yeah.
So feel free to drop off any ribs.
Okay.
Anytime.
Yeah. I'll get my editors Evan and Andrew on that.
All right. Perfect.
Awesome. They use all their sick days, so they gotta do something around the office. ribs.
Perfect. Although I will tell you, I love ribs, but my favorite, think since we're coming up on Thanksgiving
Yeah.
here, leftover turkey sandwich.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
slop that mayo on there, slice of cheese.
Okay, I'm drawing the line at mayo. Sorry.
Yeah, you can't do the mayo. Nah, do that. You gotta have the mayo. But anyways, love leftover turkey.
Oh yeah, that's a household favorite. That's a household favorite right there. All right, what is your most rewarding story as a sheriff?
I don't know that I've got one particular, but here's what I get a charge out of. And I don't know that people realize this, but again, regardless of the profession, and maybe it's even outside of work, but I am a staunch believer in the ripple effect, and I'm a staunch believer that you are put in a position throughout the day to truly impact somebody's life. And that sounds like a huge deal, but it's really not, because it's not making a big production out of it, but it's just, and if you think for a minute about, just your life, I know that you can come up with for instance, when somebody said something just at the right time that made you pause or made you go like, yeah, I really needed that. Or, hey, that changed my mind on thinking this way, or something like that. Or they did something for you or whatever, right? And I've got a number of those examples as I've grown up. And so my biggest giggle, my biggest accomplishment, whatever you want to call it, my biggest attaboy to myself is when somebody calls and says, you know what, Sheriff, you don't remember this, but 15 years ago, you handled this problem, or you arrested my kid, and honestly, I was pissed at you at the time, but it turns out that it was the best thing that ever happened because they got cleaned up and blah blah blah. So I say that to say that we oftentimes never know the impact that we have on somebody's life, good or bad, frankly, good or bad, right?
Sure.
And we just go through our day thinking that we just got through our day. But when somebody circles back and says, hey, listen, I really appreciate that you took the time to do X, or whatever the circumstances are, that's probably what I get my biggest joy from, having
That's
that
awesome.
impact. Yeah.
That is truly awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So we're rearing the end of our interview, but I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
If you got time?
I got time.
Perfect.
I'm all yours, brother.
Awesome. So what's your opinion on the on Michigan as a whole saying, the disregarding of the sanctuary, and I would say sanctuary, but the constitutional county that Livingston has declared itself as?
Everybody's got their opinion, right? And everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course. The board, our county board currently, is a lot more political than they ever have been. It's always been a conservative board. It's always been Republican elected, right? But they tend to make political statements. Frankly, I'm not a huge proponent of that, because I don't think that people elect people to hear their political pontification, right? If that makes sense. If they elected me to be sheriff to do my job, I don't need to. I'll take another poke at Sheriff Swanson. I don't need to bring in Jelly Roll to up my, game. I don't need to make a political statement to up my game. They elected me to do my job and just take care of business, right? And I think that's, in my opinion, that's what the county board should be doing more of, as opposed to making political statements. Now, all of that said, certainly within their right. The board, what a lot of people don't understand though too about these resolutions is they're really not, they're statements, other than there's no teeth to them, right? I mean, they can't The board cannot tell me, hey, you've got to go do X, Y, and Z. You've got to enforce these laws, or you can't enforce these laws, or whatever. That's what I'm elected to do. So it's a statement. I think everybody in this county knows that we're conservative and knows that we're a constitutional county. To put that out there and create the buzz that it did, I don't know that I'd have done that.
Yeah,
Right?
makes sense.
So, yeah, did that answer your question?
No, that answered it perfectly, actually. And that's, getting a lot of respect up here, you know what I mean? Because before we even, no, not even, we, contacted you for their interview, and, our research staff did our research, and we didn't even know about that until, like, a day ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, we just like, hey, let's get this guy an interview, right?
Cool.
Awesome. And so this is it's a popular request from our editing staff and some of our family friends and stuff. And the question is, what's your favorite color?
I'm going to go with Honolulu blue. How's that?
Oh, that's I would almost say that's a very very masculine choice, honestly.
I've been a Lions fan for forever. There's the old country song. I was country when country wasn't cool. I was a Lions fan when Lions wasn't cool. Been there forever. Never had any other professional team, so it's finally nice to see them turn the corner and truly that. If you think about it, Southeast Michigan and Detroit is really grit, right? I mean, that's really it. And now that's kind of been the tagline for the Lions, and it's just nice to see that they've got that grit now. That they, I've watched them for years, right? And as a matter of fact, I've got a Barry Sanders signed jersey. I've got a Matt Stafford signed jersey. I've got there's a Ndamukong Suh signed football, Jason Hansen. The list goes on. But anyways,
that's awesome.
I digress. But my point is they are truly living up to that grit. Where before, you could almost see they would play and then okay, we're gonna lose this and we quit. I mean, most recently with the Texans win, I mean that was just incredible when you can turn the ball over, that many times. And still come back and hang in the game and be there. There's just no quit there. And I love that. I love that for not just that team, but I love that for Michigan and all the Lions fans. So Honolulu blue, that's the favorite color.
We it's funny. That is actually the color of our logo.
Is it really?
It is.
That's
it
awesome.
is. That is awesome. That's a total coincidence. I swear to God, that was not planned.
That's great.
So, you were talking about how Southeast Michigan and Detroit has grit. We just actually did a video about it's our series called Abandoned Michigan. We started it up north when we saw a bunch of abandoned properties and really wanted to know the issue behind that. And one of our editors is actually from Monroe.
Okay.
So we went down to Monroe County, and just for Halloween, since it was the most haunted county in Michigan so far, and talking to eyewitnesses or even seeing the businesses that are still open, that Southeast Michigan and Detroit definitely has a lot of grit.
Yeah.
That's some hardworking people that, probably the most hardworking people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we'll be doing a Detroit episode, but I'm not going to give any spoilers.
Yeah, very cool.
Do you think the Lions are going to go all the way, though?
I sure hope so. I mean, everything is pointing that way right now. There's some good teams though out in in the NFL, and if you look historically, teams that have made the Super Bowl, and win. Frankly, it's not always a team with the best record. I think they are certainly putting themselves in position to do that, not only with the grit, but if you think about how their team's designed too. They've got the ability to, when a player goes down, they've got the ability to plug another one in, right? Hutchinson, for example. It's hurt that they've not had him, but they've managed. They've managed to be able to still, well, you look at the defense, how they played again last weekend. So they're certainly putting themselves in the best position. I hope that this past game was a little bit of a wake-up call too, to say, hey, listen, we can't take anything for granted. We've got to have the grit, but we, maybe it's not a given that we're going to win. And I think oftentimes, and we've got an example right here. Howell right now is undefeated. Howell football team's undefeated.
Yeah,
and I hope they make the states. And I don't think they have that attitude, nor do I think the Lions have that attitude. But it's easy for that attitude to come if you don't keep it in check, right? We're unbeatable. Nobody can beat us. First time you do that, that's when you show up in the L column.
Yep, exactly.
So I sure hope so. I'll tell you, speaking of, that would be probably the single best thing that could happen to Southeast Michigan in recent history. The Lions winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it would be euphoric. Would probably be an understatement.
Oh yeah, there would probably be like a small, somewhat peaceful riot going on.
Yeah. Hopefully it's peaceful.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
That's one thing I don't understand either. We're gonna burn the city down because we won.
What's going on?
What are we doing here?
Wow. So that is all. Is there any shout outs you want to give? Say hi to the kids or mom.
No, I'm good. And my wife. We don't have any kids, so appreciate the opportunity. And as I told you before we started, I'm an open book. There's nothing that's off limits or whatever. What you see is what you get, and I think that's it's just I think that's resonated with the people as well in the county to just kind of keep it real. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Keep it real. All right. So this concludes our interview with Sheriff Mike Murphy. Give it a subscribe and like, and let us know who we should interview next. Who do you think?
Well, I think you should go see Sheriff Swanson since I dinged him a little bit.
I think that might be the goal. All right. Keep it real, Michigan.
Take care.
That was awesome. I'm really glad.